Good evening. As a preliminary matter, I, Rose Doherty, Chair of the Needham Historical, I am Rose Doherty, Chair of the Needham Historical Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are here and can hear me. Dylan, tell me that you can hear me. Unmute yourself.
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, Gloria.
I can hear you.
Okay, and Laura.
I can hear you, Rose.
Okay, thank you. And of course, there aren't any anticipated guests tonight. So this open meeting of the Needham Historical Commission is being conducted remotely as consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. Okay, because of the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the Corona-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in the publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. And this meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, November 15th, 2021, the Needham Historical Commission is convening by Zoom app as posted on the town's website in identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are all of you are attending by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other people may be able to see you, and also take care not to screen share your computer. The recording of this meeting is a public document, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. So now, meeting business ground rules. We're going to turn to the first item to be discussed in this administrative meeting. We are not discussing policy at all, just administrative things. So I will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, motions, and please hold until your name is called. And please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that will help generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and then state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. And we have now covered all of the rules and regulations. All right. So let us move on to the administrative things that we have to talk about. And then I know you've got lots of questions, and Gloria, thank you for being here because you're the one with the institutional and history. You know it all. Anyhow, in the duties of officers, I sent today an updated list of the duties of officers because I realized that what had been left off is the meeting with the budget committee and with FinCom. Budget committee will be tomorrow night and FinCom will be sometime in December. Also, the chair must write the annual report and attend occasional meetings to interview candidates for other boards. I didn't know that the first time I was chair of a board. And poor Sandy Sincata finally just called Ann McFate and said, we asked her to answer me. I just didn't know what it was all about. The other piece of language that has been changed is thanks to Kristen. We don't have to, and Dylan, this applies to you, you don't have to paper the world with minutes. After the minutes of the previous meeting are approved, so after we approve September's minutes tonight, you will send them with attachments to Kristen. You don't have to send them to anyone else. That's a great saving. And then Kristen, you send an acknowledgement to Dylan telling him that they've been received, right? And
Hey, sorry, just for my own purposes, I see the document you sent, Rose, with Kristen and Louise's email addresses, but just for my own purposes, what are your roles within the town? Kristen, and I guess Louise is not here, but just so I understand who's
No,
who.
so Louise and I both work for the town manager's office. So
Okay.
she's the office assistant and I'm the admin specialist for the town manager's office.
Thank you.
And also on the sheet that I sent you, I hope, is also Miles Tucker's email, because that will be helpful to you. Miles also works for the town manager's office or town clerks. Help, Kristen? I think.
No, town
Manager's office. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
incorrect on the sheet, but
Right.
Okay, I'll correct that.
Aha, thank you, thank you. Thank you. All right. Are there any questions from the assembled folks about the duties as laid out here? Comments, quibbles?
just real quibble, if you're going to pass it on, you probably should write budget committee and finance committee.
Aha, yes. Thank you. And yes, and everything should be spelled out. I know that. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. And the whole purpose of this kind of thing is, and thank you, Gloria, for all of the work that you did on this. I think that it just will make life easier as we have rotating chairs. And, you know, we will have.
Oh, sorry. Sorry,
No,
Rose,
I have
were you finished?
No, yeah, yes.
I just have a quick clarification on the timeline of minutes and approval. So in this evening, at this evening's meeting, the November meeting, we'll be approving the October minutes, or I guess it was September, since there was no meeting in October, right? Okay.
Right. Mhm.
And once those are approved during our meeting, I will then send those approved minutes to Kristen.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
And then as far as agendas go, as I understand it, I don't have any approval responsibilities for agendas then. I think that's a chair and vice chair responsibilities.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
And
Rose,
yes,
my question is, so under the vice chair duties, it says sends the schedule to the town hall for their records and to have them schedule a meeting space for the year. Does that also apply for Zoom meeting scheduling?
we will, about the Zoom meeting, we will decide at the end of this evening's meeting, whether we will meet by Zoom in December or meet in person. Kristen has already scheduled a room for each of our meetings. And what usually happens is in June or September. June is actually better. The vice chair will just put together the schedule for the next year's meetings. And you send that to Kristen then, and she will get the rooms. And we like Great Plain. Just
So,
to,
yeah, so Laura, so in a typical year, once your committee approves of your meeting schedule for the next year, you would send it to the town manager's office, and we would set up the rooms for you and send you a confirmation of what rooms you have booked for your meetings for each month. Right now, what we did was we booked a room, we reserved a room, and we're going month by month, whether or not you want to be in person or Zoom. And then we just cancel that meeting space if you don't want to be in person.
And if that's canceled, are we to assume that you guys would set up the Zoom meetings rather than schedule a room?
Yep, so I've been in contact with Rose. When your group decides whether or not you want to be in person or Zoom, I create the Zoom account or Zoom link, and then I send it over to Rose so she has it to be able to send out to everyone, as well as put on the agenda that goes to the town clerk.
Okay, so is it fair to say in that sentence, sends a schedule to town hall for their records and to have them schedule a meeting space and or a Zoom meeting for the, or well, I don't know how to word that when it says for the year, but in other words, schedule a meeting space or schedule the Zoom, set up the Zoom meeting. Is that the same thing as scheduling a room if it's a virtual meeting?
We are scheduling the Zoom as needed.
Right, but you guys would do that as well
We
as.
would do that, yes. Just because of the account that we currently hold, multiple
that's fine.
groups, are using it. So we just need to make sure that it's not already booked for that night.
Okay, so it's either a meeting space or a Zoom meeting that you guys are going to schedule.
Correct. I mean, we'll have the room reserved for you no matter what, because that's kind of what happens in a typical year. And just going forward for this year, if you'd like to continue to do Zoom, then we'll go ahead and book those per month.
All right, and so because I'm just wondering, like during the winter time, we may decide that it's not necessary. It's probably better not to meet in person. Maybe we don't, but let's say we did. So then how much notice would you need to set up a Zoom meeting versus, because you've had the room scheduled?
Well, legally, if you are switching from in-person to Zoom, we would have to make sure that you send the notice out at least 48 hours in advance to let the public know that you're not meeting in person.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to make a note of that.
Wizards need not apply.
But Kristen, what's the practical lead time so you guys can, make sure you get a monitor and all that other stuff to get the meeting scheduled?
For the Zoom?
Yeah.
I mean, right now it's most likely me. So it's, as long as there's no other meetings booked with this Zoom account. I mean, I booked this one probably over a month ago. So if you, after this meeting, know you want to be Zoom instead of in person, then tomorrow at work, I'll go ahead and create the Zoom link. So I reserve that time slot.
So as soon as we know,
As soon as you know, and if for some reason there's a conflict, I would let you know and see if there's any wiggle room of who maybe has the account for that night, or if I can borrow either Kate's account or somebody else's.
Okay, thank you.
I know it's kind of open-ended and it's kind of.
No, yeah.
Yeah, we're
I'm just adding I know, because it's kind of up in the air, right? You have to be kind of fluid about it.
More groups are starting to be in person. But I do understand, going into the winter, it's easier to still stay on Zoom.
I think CPC is still Zooming. Zooming. Okay.
Rose, in that case, bullet 2 for vice chair.
Yes.
Says confirms or cancels the meeting and date room with town hall a week prior. Probably should be at least a week prior.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay.
Preferably immediately after, just, we know, preferably as soon as we know. Yeah.
Exactly. So that after tonight's meeting, the 7 o'clock meeting, we'll decide how we're going to meet in December, and then you can let Kristen know, okay? Anything else here that needs clarification? Hearing nothing, I will just move on. One of the things that came up because, oh, you have your hand up, Laura.
No, that was for before. I'm sorry. Let me lower it. Sorry.
Okay.
My
All right.
apologies.
No problem at all. What I wanted to do was just briefly go over the process of spending money, which we haven't done a whole lot of. And I have given you, Kristen is in charge of accounts payable, and I think that she explained things. I know she explained things correctly. Let's make sure that I got it all. Our budget is $1,050 with $400 for postage, $400 for printing and mailing, and $250 for supplies. Now, if we want to spend money, we need to get a purchase order from the town. And again, that is Kristen. We should allow 2 weeks to a month, but more than that during this time when budgets are being prepared, because the person who has to do the final sign off is Dave Davison, who is at this point extremely busy. And Miles may also have to review material sometimes. One of the
So,
things.
Rose, I did find out that
Okay.
it's just Dave approving those.
Okay, thank you. So
Mhm.
that can come out of there. All right, good. And for food, if we ever have an event where we require food, because that's what you do with people, you feed them.
For free. Yep.
Yep,
Free food. Yep.
absolutely. Sudbury Farms and Roach Brothers will accept the PO without any difficulty at all. Even if it were maybe, here I'm asking a question, if it were during that time when Dave didn't get to sign the purchase order, because it comes from town hall, Roach Brothers would still accept it, right? And deliver it to us on time.
So you'll be able to, as long as we have the purchase order in the works, you're able to go ahead and place the order. And then Sudbury Roach Brothers would reach out to me to say that they need the purchase order
Okay,
prior to giving the invoice or picking up the food.
okay,
So as long as it's in the works and getting going and they know they'll have the purchase order before you pick it up, they're okay with it.
and, okay. We're being picked up. And we have actually spent some money. And that is that, well, the computer paper that we use all the time is very nice. When we're going to send out letters to people who have just purchased an historic home and tell them about their historic homes, we will now have a small amount of nice stationery, not grotesquely elaborate and stiff and screaming, "You're spending my tax money on this."
Yeah.
Something that just looks nice with envelopes to match. And Kristen they'll be kept in the office at Town Hall, and she will do the printing of letters and mailing them and charge it to our account. And I have sent off I will send off I will sign the letters. I'll walk up to town and sign the letters, but I've already sent Kristen copies of the letterhead documents with the headers and footers so that she can move the items inside the letter around to make it look good. Okay. Anyhow, so
Rose,
yes.
wondering, or maybe it's a question for Kristen. Can we set up an email account that says chairman, historical commission chairman, for correspondence purposes, so that things don't necessarily always go to someone's personal email. I know that the housing,
So a town
Authority.
email.
yeah, is that a
Let me,
possibility? Jen? I don't know
can
if you would
ask
want that,
IT.
Rose, but
Hmm.
that way they'd all be in one, it would just be, it wouldn't be mixed up with all your personal emails, and it'd just be one email address.
And hmm,
That's up to you. Someone told me about, Reg Foster told me that that's how he does it with the Affordable Housing Committee. And it seemed like if I were to ever be chairman, I would probably want something like that, just to keep it separate.
I think it also just adds legitimacy to any communication that goes out to
Good
residents.
point, yeah.
too. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just seems a little unprofessional if it comes from a personal address.
right.
I
And
mean, I will talk to IT to see if they're able to do that, just because I know that they're limited on licenses right now on who.
Okay.
The other thing you could do is just create like a Gmail with a historical commission.
Mhm. Yeah,
then-
it's just, I know, it's just when it says needham.gov, it's just a little
Mhm.
more official.
Yeah,
But
so let me,
Just a question.
it's gonna be a question, and to see what the limits are for who gets a town email.
And that would make me so much happier than putting my personal email in there, because I would hate to, in the letter, the body of the letter itself. Also,
Right,
I mean, it simply shouldn't be my personal email.
right, I agree.
And the Gmail account is a possibility, but it doesn't look as good as needham.ma.gov. I think, I agree with you. And then that also leads to a question that you asked, Kristen, and that is about the return address on the letters that are going out to people. I think that it ought to have just my name and then Needham Historical Commission and then the town hall
Town-
address.
Yeah,
That makes it look official, not my home address, certainly.
but especially if you're sending out letters, and now we're talking about a potential local historic district and people have questions, I think it would be nice to have an email address for them to be able to contact, instead of writing a letter or a phone call or your personal email address.
Mhm. Yeah. Anyhow, your checking on that, Kristen, would be very much appreciated. Okay, are there other questions about what we've set up here? Comments? I thank you. I will clean up what I sent to you and send it off. And we are actually starting to put together a procedures manual that can be passed on. And procedures always change. That's not a problem, but we just need to make things as, right, and yes, formal as possible. So that's another good reason for the email being from a town one. Anyhow, anything else about how business gets done? No? It is 6:57, so I guess you could go off and get a cup of tea, but I had enough sense to make mine.
You should have reminded us, Rose.
Yes, and I don't know whether there's enough time for a cup of tea. So
Put that in the chair responsibilities.
yes.
That's a good one, Dylan, yeah.
Well, doesn't a job description always say, and other duties as required?
Requested,
Right.
yes.
So
There you go.
reminding people to make their cup of tea when it's a longer meeting is a good thing to do. And I thank you very much for being here and starting to get us moving in the right direction. We will be talking first with Marianne Cooley about Nuwari. And I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation. It will also lead us, I think, into setting the stage for a discussion of bylaws. So that will be a lot of, dare I say, fun.
So do we just wait now for people to join?
Actually, yes. So if you want to go off and make yourself a cup of tea or
I'm
get
all
some
set.
for you, you're all set. Oh, yeah,
That
okay.
should last me for a few days.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. I
And
have
Gloria,
my,
thank you for your help too with this. Thank
yes,
This was helpful, both of you, really.
Thank you, yeah.
Glad, yeah, it's nice to go into it with some expectation of knowing what you're doing as opposed to making it up as you go along. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
And thanks, Kristen, for your help. I know you
yes.
guys do a lot with all these committees, so
Yeah.
appreciate
Yeah,
it.
I'm happy to help.
I do have a question, and that is, I think I know the answer. I don't need to read the draft script for the next piece, do I? You know, the Governor Baker says it's okay to do this, or should I, because there'll be 3
Different
more
people.
joining us.
Yeah, because you'll have the rest of your committee coming in as well as other
Possibly.
participants.
Yes, exactly. People. Okay, I can do that.
So Rose, so I was taking notes during this meeting, so just as a matter of practice. So at the end of today's meetings, I'll send this draft to you and Laura
Mhm.
for review, right?
Yes, and it's just a matter of having 1 or 2 second sets of eyes looking at it. It really does help.
Right. So once I hear back from you and Laura saying good to go or providing comments, then those minutes will then be sent to Kristen.
Right. No. No. Those will then be.
Oh, those will be
Then-
presented at the next meeting, right?
Yes, so they'll be sent out to the members of the board before the meeting.
Right.
And
Okay.
I have in fact overloaded your email, and I know that because I sent out a whole bunch of things for the October meeting. And
Right.
then I sent out more stuff for the November meeting, but I think that we just need to, make sure that when you're sending it out, Gloria, you've done this longer than anyone, so it seems to me that a week is probably about the right amount of time for people to read things and then remind. I would like to have a reminder email from you, Dylan, just saying, meeting is coming up, and okay, just because it helps to keep me on the straight and narrow.
We don't all zone out. Yeah,
Yeah.
a week should be fine. More than a week, people lose them. Less than a week, if people have questions, it gets hard to sort of process the information. So,
Yes. Okay, so a week is just about fine. Good. Okay. And Don, welcome. And what I am going to do, because it is 7:02 and we are convening this meeting, I will start reading the draft script again. I am Rose Doherty, Chair of the Needham Historical Commission. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Gloria, yes.
yes.
Laura, yes. Dylan?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
Good, thank you. There are no anticipated speakers on this agenda except for Marianne Cooley. So that was the wrong way to say that. So good evening. This open meeting of the Needham Historical Commission is being conducted remotely as consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the coronavirus. If there were more prepositional phrases in that sentence, I would scream. But anyway, in order to mitigate the transmission of COVID-19, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless that participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting on November 15th, 2021, the Needham Historical Commission is convening by Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. So now the rules for Zoom meetings. The meeting is being recorded and some attendees, all of us actually, are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that folks may be able to see you, also to take care not to screen share your computer. The recording of this meeting is a public document and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided to members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. So, business meeting ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda, but before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker or item on the agenda. After remarks are concluded, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. Finally, each vote taken in the meeting will be conducted by roll call. Okay. Okay, it seems that we don't have Marianne with us yet.
She's joining right now.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm sorry to be late. I'm coming from another meeting that's still meeting. And I just said that I'm leaving to come to you guys and then I'll go back there. So
Thank
there
you.
have it.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for coming this month. And I'm so glad we got on your calendar early. So we need for you to tell us a bit more about Nuwari, because we've got some real questions. We've read your materials and we know what the charge is for the Historical Commission in the bylaws. And it doesn't seem to fit easily with Nuwari. Now, we've thought about ways that we might do this, but perhaps you can give us some guidance.
So I'm seeing that Jeff has maybe a question. I'm just not sure. Jeff, is there a question you have first? You're on mute.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I was just a point of order. I was gonna make a motion to move up Mary Ann's. She's on the agenda of like the third or fourth item. So I was just gonna move up, right? No?
no, she's first.
Okay,
Okay. And she is
Good.
here with us and now
sorry to
she,
interrupt.
that's quite all right. Glad to see you. By the way, you looked really good in the Needham Channel clip of town meeting. Really, thank you.
But
And thank you also, Marianne, for helping we supported the Emery Grover, as you might well imagine. Anyhow, as I was saying, we do seem to have a situation where we don't want to go beyond our mandate, yet we also want to be inclusive. And we have a couple of things that we are looking at, and that includes houses in town that actually had enslaved people. We're still working on getting the final documentation on that. And then there is also the whole issue that this land is not our land, but in fact belonged to the Massachusetts people. And they'd be very willing to help us write a land acknowledgement statement, but they'd like to know why we're doing this. In other words, are we doing this to make ourselves feel like good white people? Or do we have some commitment to the whole concept? Anyhow, so there's our dilemma. I think I've put that properly.
So,
May I?
yes, go ahead, Laura.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add, if that's okay with you, Rose, that
Yep, absolutely.
having you join us kind of came up when we after we received the town manager's sort of memo about Nuwari and how, you know, committees and commissions need to be mindful of the mission and inclusive. And we felt that without having a conversation with someone from Nuwari, we really couldn't go about accomplishing what she wanted us to do the right way. I think that's sort of where we started. So that's why we wanted to, you know, have you spend a few minutes with us, just so we better understand how we can fit with what Nuwari is trying to accomplish. So we really appreciate you doing this for us.
So I appreciate the thought that all of you are putting into this. I think our goal is not to turn everybody inside out and run them through hoops, but with each committee's lens, right, to take your historic commission lens and think about relative to our history and racism and the issues that it brings. What might that mean? So I'm actually thrilled to hear that you're thinking about, you know, what would our history and what would the registry of houses look like of places in town that held enslaved people, whether they were Indigenous or whether they were Black. And I suspect in our early days that most may have been Indigenous, and that may have changed over time. You know, I think about the fact that Needham has history where we were in the Green Book, you know, in the 50s, that piece. So I think the pieces that have overlap with you, the question is, how do we help to catalog, identify, and surface those pieces of history so they become more known? They are facts, and they're facts that we've sort of chosen to lead in some ways over time, right? But that they become more visible so that we understand that we all had a part, not that we are personally responsible or that we personally took action, but that we all have some ownership of what it means for going forward in the sense of just awareness. So I don't think it specifically, you know, is going to say that you're going to do X, Y, Z, and some house becomes a piece of that. I don't think that's it. But I think the way that you help to identify and elucidate pieces of Needham's history that have disappeared or been forgotten or somehow got buried in this process is part of our understanding, or helping everyone in town to understand who in fact we are and how we got here. All right. And there's lots of things that contributed to that. And I think that would be greatly appreciated. You know, I think that understanding of our history in the town, and I think of all the articles that Gloria's been writing to shed some light on this, are actually a tremendous help, but that have some overlap with some of the work that you've been doing. The land acknowledgement question is sort of an interesting one because I think it's a little bit different. The town has not had a discussion about whether the town would do a land acknowledgement. I think that's something that we will have at some point. It's less clear to me how that exactly relates to some of the work that you're doing right now. But I think you're right, Rose. It's just as you're working through issues, what are the ways in which this committee can help to bring to light some of those pieces of Needham's past? I do think there will be opportunities conceivably going forward to maybe work with other organizations and co-sponsor a lecture on some topic related to this. You know, I think there's going to be some educational opportunities like that that we might try to structure with different committees from town pulling together. So we're thinking about what are some possibilities for that. And if you had ideas for that, I think we'd be open to hearing about them. Nuari is thinking about that in terms of community conversations.
Okay.
So we're really just trying to get a lot more people thinking about what are the intersections from the past with today that we can help people to understand.
One of your guiding principles is that we should all commit to self-education to have a better understanding about race and racism and racial equity and all of those things.
Yes.
And the self-education, if it has to come from almost 0.0 and grow over time, because but the question is, and both Don and Jeff have raised this, we don't want to go beyond what our responsibilities are. And we are in fact going to be talking about our bylaws shortly.
So I think one of the questions
Mary-
from the select board when Kate reached out and asked was if you as a group have talked about this and you wanted to propose a goal or a project that the group would work on, you know, by all means, reach out to Kate, you know, working with the select board to suggest that this is a topic area that you would like to work on. So I think there's sort of a discussion about, you know, what might that topic be and how that matches staying in your lane and those kinds of issues. So, Gloria?
Yeah, we sort of saw this as a kind of two-part answer. And one was, you know, how do we take this broader and more inclusive view of, you know, what's historic when we designate landmarks, you know, a broader view of designating landmarks and also incorporating information to already designated landmarks. The other part was commission membership. And the question I had, because we're not the appointing authority for our commission, and we don't often have input into the appointment of commissioners. And is the town making that effort to find a more diverse pool of potential volunteers so that diversity of membership works its way into the town committee system?
So the town is absolutely working on that. We had a great deal of outreach that happened this year from the town, from me personally. I can tell you that I have been working with some other committees and have seen a bigger variety of people who have come forward on those committees. We made some specific outreach to some of the various groups that have appeared and organized in town to make sure that they were aware of various openings and met with them to talk about committees and what that might mean. So I think that there's a lot of work that's ongoing on that. We also had discussions with a number of folks who serve on a variety of committees or have served for a long time about, is it time to make way for some room for some new voices at the table, and how can we facilitate that if that's needed? So I think those are all pieces that we are trying to affect on many levels right now.
Mary Ann, what are the discussion where we had around where overstepping our bounds was more around sort of the language that we wanted, since we're not in control of our pool, you know, that we wanted to say, we support the select board in their efforts for being more diverse, and we'll make maybe suggestions. You know, it's not, we shouldn't be getting into language of we shall and so on, because we're not ones to impose upon the select board those things. We're supporting, you know, the whole town in every effort to be, you know, more open and inclusive and diverse. But we work with what we got, right, as well.
We work with what we got. And I think really what we asked committees to do was endorse the principles. So that's, whether you say support or endorse, that's really the concept that we're looking for, Jeff. Absolutely. So thank you.
Okay, and
That's a good language. That's guidance.
okay. Any other questions for Marianne, who has to get back to her other meeting?
Community conversations about race. Yes.
Any other questions for Marianne? Oh, thank you so much for taking the time and
Thank
giving us
you. And
your-
thank all of you for the work that you do on behalf of our historic structures and thinking about how we're all going to be thinking about them. So I appreciate your broadening our perspectives on them.
Okay.
Well, here for a recent success in preservation.
Yes.
One down, right? You do it a building at a time. It's like starfish. Exactly. Bye, you guys.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you. Okay. All right. Moving along. Okay, we need to talk about minutes, and I asked you all to take a look at the minutes from for April, May, and June, and then also September. I suggest that we just start with comments. Yes, Gloria.
I'm sorry, before we move on to the next item, do we should at some point, not necessarily right now, go back to that sort of draft statement, because I think we probably are in a position to finish it off.
The
Right.
Nawari.
The Nawari draft statement.
Yes, okay. And that then will be on the December agenda? And we'll
Yeah.
send it out ahead of time, okay? Okay. Good.
Gloria, do you mean based on the feedback we got, we modify the statement that we're making?
Yeah,
To
we sort of had
include-
those 2 points, greater diversity and membership and historic inventory narrative. Just,
Okay.
you know, tweak those, you know, and then some generic preamble about endorsing Nori's efforts to broaden this conversation, and, you know, whatever the town.
Were you
endorsement
suggesting we
language
do
is.
that now to close out this agenda before we move on to the next agenda item? And
I think we could do it over email. I mean,
Yeah.
just because we have a very long agenda tonight. I don't want to add to that, but
Okay.
I think we can finish it off.
We can also just remember that when you respond, you don't respond to everybody, right?
No, just sort of send your comments out, then we'll pool them next time and sort of, yeah.
We'll get it done. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much for your help here. All right, we need to take a look at minutes, and one of the things that I want to ask is whether there are, in the ones from last spring, are there any corrections that need to be made, people present who weren't, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes?
Oh.
No?
You-
Okay, are there any comments about the April, May, and June minutes? Yes, Don.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we can even attempt to approve them. There just seem to be a lot of holes, at least in the copies I was looking at, you know, motions where it's blank, the second blank. Comments about, I don't remember the something, or my memory is that we discussed this, that, or the other thing. If there's supposed to be, a record of an accurate record of our meetings, then sort of those holes need to be filled in first.
And I think that's going to be difficult because we don't have the, we simply don't have the text. So,
Right. No, I understand that.
yeah,
Actually, well, some of these are, right, were edits to my notes that I included, right?
yep.
So this, so some of you could cross-reference one with some of my notes, and also all these meetings are still available by Zoom. So they can all be transcribed.
Oh, are you volunteering?
Well, I started it, and then
teasing.
someone else went back to the notes that I did. Gloria, you and I were talking.
Well, we did,
The
but
only
you
one-
said there
the
were a
only one
couple
I
you,
don't have the only one I don't have notes to are the June, when we met in person,
thought there were
right?
two that we had to reconstruct. May and June,
May,
April, and June,
April and May.
April,
Yeah.
May. There were two that we were trying to put together because we didn't have the drafts.
Yeah.
And there's some open questions in the June minutes.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Oh,
Kristen, how do we find these transcripts? These,
I'm
Where
actually
are the-
looking on the
are the
YouTube
recording-
channel now. So if you go to the town website and click the sidebar that says YouTube, you're able to see all the past recordings. So
Yeah.
September 27th is currently on there, and I'm just scrolling back now to I guess
June.
last June was your last one that you probably had with Sandy,
Do
I
they-
assume.
Do they ever age out, or how far back do they go?
I'm in May right now, June.
June was live, right? I'm not sure we have a video
Right,
meeting
June-
for
It
June.
was live.
June
I
was
was,
You
live.
were in person.
Hmm.
It's the May and April.
So I can look and see if what's on here, and I can try to send out the links to them if I find them. But I am currently looking on the YouTube channel now for your past. If you are on Zoom, they should be on here.
Great, thank you.
that's good. That will enable us to fill in the blanks that our notes simply didn't fill in.
Yes, all right. Gloria, I had, when we had spoken, I had volunteered to do that, but I was just, my timing, I was backed up way back in
Yeah,
several months ago.
yeah, but there were, I know, there were a couple that we didn't have, so. Yeah, we could do it if we've got if we've got the videos, we could just do it from that.
Yep, we
Fill
can.
in the blanks, because get these off the
And-
table.
And
And
actually, if people have some recollection of some of those question marks or comments, those are things that we could all send, right? Because that's just sending in our edits, just as long as we don't have a reply. You could take those and then add those, fill in the blanks, and then we could look at them next time.
Yeah.
Okay, could I suggest that what we do is wait until we get Kristen's links and then see how, and since Gloria and I worked on these, we can work, I'm volunteering you. We can just fill in the blanks because I've talked with people about what did you have and didn't think of the fact that this is being recorded.
Yeah.
Never occurred to me.
I
And
might have some notes. I keep notes, so I might be able to help if I can't locate them anymore, the minutes. I'm looking for them now. But I have some notes, so I might be able to help, at least with the,
Excellent, excellent. We will get this done. Could I suggest that we, in the interests of time, move on to the September minutes and ask whether there are any questions, comments, quibbles about those?
Yep.
Hearing nothing, can we then have a motion to accept the September minutes?
I'll move to
Move.
accept the September minutes.
Second,
Okay, thank you, Don and
Aye.
Gloria. Yes. Okay, I will now call people and see whether or not you are willing to vote for them. Gloria,
yes.
Dylan,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
Laura,
yes.
and Jeff.
Yes.
And I vote yes also. So the vote is unanimous. We have now accepted the September minutes for September 2021. All right. Okay. Now we are moving on to the thing that is just something we need to do. We decided that we would have a letter that would go out to all new owners of historic properties, telling them about their properties. You have a copy of that. Don has a list of the properties. And at this point, yes? I'm sorry. At this point, Don also put together a list of what needs to be done, getting the information, filling in this is the difficult thing, not difficult, but just time consuming, filling in the information in the blank letter and research the macros and digital Commonwealth information, and then attach the URL links and the email address, which Kristen will tell us whether or not we can have a needhamma.gov to the letter, which would be wonderful. And we'll write a brief summary of the house's historical significance and add that to the letter. And then Kristen's office will do the printing. I'll go and sign them, and then it will get sent off. And this is a completed action, I think. Questions, comments, criticisms?
I'm confused. Didn't we have this letter done like a long time ago?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Okay, okay.
That's why this is in fact such a long agenda, because what I'm doing essentially is trying to clean up some things that we just didn't get to.
Okay.
So the letter is done. Gloria did the letterhead. It's been sent to Kristen. All we
Okay.
have to do is have a couple of people who are willing to research the house, do the history of the house, give the macros URL and all of that stuff. And just fill it in the letter, and then I will send them off to Kristen, and they'll be printed and sent out. And then that's finished.
How many are there, Rose?
There are 4.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
not-
it's not a big deal. It's,
Yeah.
really just ought to get it done. And if anyone wants to volunteer, and in fact, I will do one. How's that?
I'll do
from
one.
Correct.
You know,
Yeah.
Gloria, the house on Central Ave, Galen Orr house that Polly just wrote an article about.
Yeah,
I ran into the new owner, Adrian,
uh-huh,
and Adrian. I got talking to her a bit, and then we texted back and forth, having just that article came out, and I suggested that she talk to you. I don't know if she's reached out to you. She's a daughter of American Revolution, and she talked about wanting to tell her story. And I said, well, I'm someone who I think you would love to, would love to hear your story and could tell you a few. I suggested she talk to you. So I
Great.
guess she hasn't done that yet.
Not yet. Thanks. Good.
But,
Thank you.
well, she's busy in renovation. She's doing, so I thought it's also, I don't want to make this an issue, but it's interesting that we were not consulted and Dave made a decision because she's gutting the place and doing, modernizing it, which is cool.
Is she doing any exterior work?
No.
Then it's not our business.
Not our business.
He can't, he doesn't have to notify us because we don't have any, until there is exterior demolition, we don't have any jurisdiction.
Yes. Yep. So, okay, Jeff will do one, I will do one. Laura will do one. Okay, and there's just one begging. All
I'm
right.
not seeing the letter. When did we?
Oh, we did the letter back in maybe January. I did
I
send
saw-
you a copy of it.
I saw Rose, and you sent out a lot of things in the last month, Rose.
Yes,
And
I know.
I saw a draft of it.
Mhm.
But you have a lot of emails with a lot of attachments that sometimes,
Yeah, I may just not have caught that one.
Yeah, okay, so I will send out the letter again.
yeah, that'd be great.
But I don't think we should rewrite it because I took a look at it and I remembered how long it took us to get this letter. So let's just do it, okay? Even if there are things that are repeated, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, so we've got 3 people working. Rose,
Yeah.
Jeff, Laura.
Rose,
Okay.
I'll do one as well.
You're a good person, Don. Notice I didn't say that to either Jeff or Laura, but that's beside the point. Anyhow. So now, okay, that's taken care of. Now we can move along to, yes.
Rose, do you want to
Yes.
assign the names, the houses?
That would be good.
That.
You know what I
that-
mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. The difficulty is my finding the email that has the names of the houses on them right
I'll
now.
resend that
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
to Rose, Laura, Jeff.
Mhm. Yep. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, and if we can consider that actually completed. And now we have to talk about the Tolman Gay House. Yeah, and I asked Gloria whether she would just introduce this subject because it is a biggie.
Okay. We have had inquiries from both realtors and now an architect, and we will discuss the response to the architect in a couple minutes about clearly the Tolman Gay House is or is about to go on the market. Now, Tolman Gay House, which was built in the 1740s, is that white house that sort of is a long house at the end to Central Avenue, just a few houses from the History Center and across the street. So 1196 Central Avenue. It is a National Register house. The Tolmans and the Gays are both founding families of Needham. It's an extremely important house. Historically, it is also one of the sites identified as we work through a sort of a trail of African-American history in Needham It's both the Tolmans and the Gays were enslavers. So the house has a lot of historical importance. It has a lot of resonance with recent issues. It is on the National Register. It is an important house, and it is now
It is on the
apparently
National
endangered.
Register? Didn't you just share that you were making an application to that, or
Application to what? I'm sorry.
to the National Register, or did you just share?
No, it's on the National Register.
Okay,
It's on the national. I may have sent out the National Register application because I couldn't find the B form's not on Macris for some reason. And because my office is currently under construction, I can't get to my notebook. Otherwise, I would have scanned it and sent it to everybody. But I did send out, I believe, the National Register nomination forms, which cover a lot of the same ground. But it's been on the National Register since the 80s.
Too. Yep.
We would very much like there to be an alternative to demolition for this house. And to
were the current owners, is that Owen and with
it's Owen, yeah, Owen Minot. Yeah,
Mary.
and I'm actually going to talk, I am going to speak to them about, sort of what their plans are. There's no sign posted right now, so it may not be on the market. It may just be in the sort of, inquiring stage, but also sometimes when there's no sign, it's because it's being directed, the realtors are basically directing it straight to builders and not to the open market. So
did they talk to you? How do you?
A letter.
Realtors, we've had a couple of realtors asking about what the bylaw restrictions are. And one architect, and this letter we will get to, actually saying he has a prospective client that wants to tear it down. So, clearly if it's not actively on the market, it's going on the market.
Mm-hmm. And the first realtor, or the realtor that I remember, said that it was going to go on the market in February.
Okay.
So we do have a chance to.
So it's not on the market, but obviously people are starting to, consider the possibilities. Realtors are obviously talking about it. So do you want me to continue with the letter, or do you want to take over?
Well, I actually answered the gentleman who said he wanted to tear down the house and build a new one for his client. He also mentioned to us that he is a former member of the Newton Historical Commission. He should know better. He really should. Sorry about that. Anyhow, the realtor's letter, the letter to the realtor tells him that this is an artifact of our history. It cannot be replaced, and the commission will fulfill its civic responsibilities. Now, he also went to our bylaws and does understand that we don't have a whole lot of power here. But we're still going to, I assume, do everything we can to fulfill our civic responsibilities, because this is just not a good thing. And I also told him that this was a house that had a history of enslaved people, and we haven't completed that research, but we are feeling that it is absolutely not something that can come down. So
do you want me to read? I've got a copy of the letter. Do you want me to read it?
oh, actually, I did send it out to everybody, didn't I? Oh, I'm sorry. It was one of the many things I sent. Dear Mr. Mayor, your email about the regulations that govern the Tolman Gay House at 1196 Central Avenue is important to the town of Needham and to the Historical Commission. Your having served on the Newton Historical Commission means that you understand the importance of local history preservation. The Historical Commission protects the historical assets that are the visible evidence of the town of Needham's history. The Tolman Gay House is named in the National Register of Historic Places for two veterans of important actions in the Revolution. Both Tolman and Gay were part of the East Militia Company that responded to the call to Lexington. This artifact of our history cannot be replaced, and the commission will fulfill its civic obligation. Today, Needham, like other communities, recognizes responsibility to take our full history, not just white history, into account. Initial research suggests that both the Tolman and Gay families held enslaved people. This is one of the two houses in Needham so identified, and this information is being included in the new educational and community resources currently under development. Final paragraph. Your experience on Newton's Historical Commission gives you insight into the process and reasons for the need. You understand the regulations, and you know that the Needham Historical Commission will work hard to preserve this important piece of our history. You are welcome to attend a commission meeting. Please write or call if you have questions.
Does it make sense to address the owners? I mean, they're the ones hiring the I'm guessing, or the potential buyers. I mean, because he's just doing what somebody's
Right, he's just
asking
making,
him to do.
but,
Right.
okay, but Gloria, you know who the owners are, right?
I know the current owners. I don't know who the potential,
No.
his potential client, he hasn't said, and I don't know. And I'm guessing they're from out of town.
Our only hope is contacting the current owners.
Yeah.
Or what about, like, can the abutters do anything to stop this? Because is there a way to reach? No.
Not really.
I mean, this kind of goes to a bigger point about how this town has basically nothing to protect
Yes.
affordable housing or historic housing. It's kind of a joke when you compare it to all other towns. Nothing. 6 delay, that's it. And it's only if a house is on a register. And then what? So they wait it out. There's no age restriction. There's no date built restriction. It's too short of a delay. I mean, it makes no sense.
There are no other towns that have really any regulations with any meat in them either.
Well, there's towns that have a lot more than we do, and I did a whole spreadsheet on it.
1 year.
They have towns have 1 year. Towns have age restrictions. Towns have. There's a whole spreadsheet I did. I went online. I looked at like 6 or 7 towns. We are the weakest.
Yeah.
And
There are towns with 18-month restrictions. But, this gets us back to what we dance around and haven't resolved, which is the neighborhood conservation district bylaw. Because that's really, one of the few effective ways of preserving historic assets.
It's just hard when there's just one property, I think that's harder. Yeah.
Let's find someone to buy this house and move it and put it on the lot up on Great Plain Ave from Jack's old house, because there's 25,000 square feet of a backyard that doesn't even have access hardly from the house on Great Plain Ave.
But then you need a driveway.
yes.
Yeah.
And so it goes.
If you could get there from do something with the housing, it's totally accessible from that.
Well, okay.
That apartment complex.
They'd be foolish to let you do that. It's a liability issue.
Yes. In terms of actions that we can take, to talk with an owner who is already ready to sell, that it does need to be done, but it needs to be done by someone who knows them and not simply, a face from the Historical Commission. I do think that Mr. Meyer's reaction to the letter is probably, yep, and yep. And he will fight as hard as he can. But the real issue, the one that we have not discussed, although we've been talking about it since 2019. I came across some 2019 minutes today, and maybe before that. We now have, from Don and from Laura, we have the steps in place to set up a local historic district, and the amount of time that it will take to get it through the Historical Commission process, and the time that it will take, obviously, to get it through town meeting. We want to do a Pelosi and make sure we have all of the votes in place before we bring it to town meeting. Seems to me that but one of the things that both Don and Laura found out in the work that they have done is that you have to have a groundswell of people who really appreciate historic houses. And that needs to be developed long before you ask the select board to appoint a committee. And any good politician will say to you, well, are the people in favor of it? So, starting to work on the public relations with the town, and you're doing it, Gloria, in your articles. But the Historical Commission needs to become a thing that is paid attention to. Because I spend too much time explaining the difference between the Historical Commission and the History Center.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't have to.
I went to a political event tonight, and I had to do that. When they asked me, I said, "Oh," because I said I'm on the Historical Commission, and it was like, "Oh, Glorious loves those articles," and then I had to say different. She's on the commission, but that's her role on this is the center.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Gloria,
it's, go ahead, Don.
Gloria, have you done an article on the Tolman Gay House?
No, actually, I was working on one, and now I was working on one in tandem with this research we've been doing on enslavement. Timing, this was before I knew it was on the market.
Right.
Timing's going to get a little awkward. So maybe time to launch it before it's officially marketed.
Yeah. That's
And
what I thought.
Yeah.
in fact, you could even, to build public awareness, you could use the Cogswell House as an example of what should not have come down, or what could have been saved and wasn't. And, we did our best, but, to use that rather than using the Tolman Gay. And then we also have Rick's slideshow of all of the buildings that have been lost. So
But I think if I approached Tolman Gay, it would be more about the hook would be how we know more and how we need to look the sort of the broader history, how we need to look at history more broadly.
I think Don's idea of take the opportunity to document the history, the special interest, and then you could write a little last paragraph, of current, unfortunately, not this article, the house is potentially being sold for demo. That might get some attention, but I think the crux of the article's got to be your what research you've already begun, and the history of the house. Everybody loves that. I mean,
That
It's not, Okay.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Good.
It's not gonna matter though, because we have no recourse. Right? So we need to, at some point, think about how do we change the bylaws?
Well, if you bring attention to it, our own, is the only hope is to find a white knight. We don't have power, only in information, sharing it with the community. Someone steps in and has an option of, I'll try and save the house. I have a spot for it, or
Not even a white knight, just to market the house to somebody who will live in it,
Yes, and take care of it.
make,
Yes.
it's good. I probably needs, I know one of the realtors we talked to, it asked about, can potential owners put an addition on it? I said, well, absolutely. So, additions, that's been a solution for a lot of other houses we've looked, we've had discussions over, and, given the shape of the lot, any feasible addition would be where it's not visible, anyway. So to some extent that also,
Gloria, if you've been in the house, it's got to have a terrible floor plan.
it's a very odd shape. It probably does have a terrible floor
It's
plan.
long and narrow, and it just, if anybody was going to make it more modern and renovate to do an addition, they would probably blow out a whole side and double the side of the house.
Well, they would have to come, they would have to come to us for that, but,
Yes,
but,
yeah, that's not attractive. It's not like an old house with a, 2
its
over
footprint
2.
is actually, based on the assessors, its footprint is not quite as weird as it looks like it should be. It looks like a bowling alley from the street.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I think it's not quite as bad as that. But yeah, I mean, it's, and that's, if there's somebody who's willing to buy and, keep the house, then, there's gonna have to be presumably some sort of compromise about renovation plans, because you can't force people to live in difficult circumstances, because those of us who don't live in the house want it to maintain a certain appearance. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues that are going to come up.
Okay, it seems to me that we need to make some kind of statement, since Mr. Mayor and the realtors may be listening.
Has he responded?
No,
No, Mayor? No.
no.
I don't think we want to initiate anything. We know what once they, we don't want to give them too much insight into how quickly they need to initiate the process to start the clock ticking. So, right. So
He absolutely knew. He absolutely
knows.
knew. He listed this off chapter and verse in his email, and then said, did I miss anything?
Yeah.
So,
He has been a member of Newton's
yeah.
commission.
So
And
you
he
answered
even
his
told us
questions,
we should do more.
Now we sit and wait. Why initiate a conversation?
No, I mean,
he's not with him.
No,
we can't, yeah, he can't do anything. I think he's just, he's looking to advise a potential client over whether, what the parameters are going to be. He's not starting the clock. He doesn't own the house, for one thing. Nor does his client own the house. I think, like realtors who ask in advance, the client is going to say, I want to buy this house. I want to knock it down. I don't want to buy the house and find out that, I can't do this. So he's doing a little bit of spade work to find out what the parameters are. But yeah, he absolutely knew every
Mhm.
dot and, period of that bylaw. He obviously studied it very closely and he listed out all these points out. And then he said, did I miss anything? Is there anything else I should know? So
Right.
we're not,
And Rose's letter was very clear that, very diplomatically spoken, that we were going to be very unfriendly in regards to this process
Yep.
and do everything in our ability to,
yeah.
use the regulations.
Exactly.
Yeah. Is anyone familiar with the Historic New England's Preservation Easement Program?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is
Okay.
that an alternative?
No.
No?
For two reasons. It's a deed. It goes with the deed. So it's in perpetuity. The easement becomes part of the deed. It gets passed on from owner to owner, but it's expensive. And the owner has to initiate it.
Yeah, it's $500.
No.
More than that? There's an application fee of $500.
Yeah, there's a endowment that was $50,000 when we sold the Glen Dune house in 2005.
Yikes.
It's got to be more than that, because what they do, it's quite a good program. It's a very labor intensive program. They go through the house literally inch by inch, and it's so fine grained that you can say, you could designate bits. I mean, for example, on the Glen Dune house, the old part, the 1710 part, there is actually a run of original feather edged clapboards. It's a small, just under the gable, small run, but those were designated as preserved, whereas all the other clapboards are fairly new and can be replaced at need. You could designate floorboards, you could designate, it could be very fine grained. As a result, they go through the house, they create a complete inventory of everything that's of historic value that should be preserved. You agree to it. That goes into the deed restriction. And then they do an annual inspection.
Okay.
So
they had to pay Spica, to be the overseer who monitors that annually. So
that's why
where-
there's an endowment for it. That's
where
why
the
you pay
cost
for
comes
it.
in, because you're contracting in perpetuity,
Yeah.
with them to oversee.
Yeah, so that's why it's expensive. So yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's not
Just
something
looking
that
for
easily ask
alternatives,
people.
but yeah, looking for alternatives here.
Yeah, I mean, it's something
Could-
that it's good to do, but it's not an option a lot of people will take because it is so expensive.
Has there ever been any legal action outside of the bylaws to stop demolition?
In town? In New
Yeah.
York?
Yeah, do we have any experience with that? Or?
Town can't. I mean, if
No,
someone, someone else wants to do it, all right, but it puts you at risk for the lawsuits. You can't just come up with a lawsuit for a delay tactic, and it categorizes was a frivolous legal method, and you're liable for a suit. So the town would never do that beyond what the bylaws allow.
The bylaw does have a penalty for violating the terms of the bylaw. If you tear the house down, without the
Yes.
demolition permit, or, inside of the 6 months, or it's something like but it's kind of ridiculous because it's $300 a day until the situation is rectified. But if you've torn down a 300-year-old house, how do you rectify that? What's the remedy for that situation? Seriously. And the only two times I could think of that it has been violated, there's always been offered a justification. One is the Rimley house across the street. Remember, we gave them
Yes.
we gave them limited permission. They ended up tearing the thing down. They made a hardship case that the structure was in fact unsound and unsafe, which is the back out clause in the bylaw. And similarly with the Hawes, it's the Hosnell, Hosnell House. It's now a house owned by Olin. It's one of those little houses along the road that's owned by Olin. Was also taken off the historic register because they essentially did the same thing. They replaced it board by board. It's supposed to be a small renovation that just sort of mushroomed into what is essentially a replica brand new structure. And for similar reasons, he said, as they went into it, they found more and more instability, and they had to fix this and shore up that and replace that until it's virtually a new house. There haven't been any situations that I know of where somebody has just said, to heck with this and knocked it down.
Have there ever been any sort of tax credit or other financial incentives for the purchase of, a historic home and the preservation of it?
For private houses, no. Which is a problem too, because for public properties, there are, not just CPC, but there were also state-run programs for preservation of public properties. But there are none. We went through this process with the packets that we did years ago for the historic homeowners. There's really no financial incentive to maintaining historic structure. And on top of that, piling on that is, as Jeff well knows, they're expensive to maintain.
Mhm. Oh,
Labor of love.
Yes.
exactly.
Even mine, which is 150 years younger than yours, it's still a lot of work.
Okay, so with 1196, with the Tolman Gay, what we'll do is wait and see what happens, and see what kind of action actually.
So no one has a relationship with, I knew Owen because he was a social worker, and I ran into him professionally. And I sat on a education committee in town when our kids were young with Mary. But I've never really socialized with them other than bumping into them, I haven't seen them in years. I wonder.
Maybe walking down the street and bumping into them.
Back and forth. Till they come out.
I've been sort of watching the house, the demolition and construction going on up next to Newman. The people who came to us, and
Mhm.
so.
And they now have a serious fence around the property.
The house went down a couple days ago.
Oh, it did? Oh,
End of last week, yeah.
thank you.
Should we send a letter to the current owners? Is there any harm in that?
Perhaps
I don't,
giving them some information about the house?
right, just making sure they're aware, because they're not the, let me just see, there's a few owners before them. They're not,
Hmm.
it was Owen Minot, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to see sales history, sales.
Hmm.
Oh no, well, they bought it in 1992, so they've had it for a while, but on the register, the document listing the register, the owner at that time was Philip and Carol Christoph.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So, what harm could it do? Or is that, would they be upset? I don't know. I don't know how that works, but.
I would support a letter, maybe just saying, we understand, we've been contacted by, realtors inquiring about the historic nature and the restrictions, and so we understand yes, we understand that you're trying to sell the house, and I don't know if we want to have any questions you have or anything you could do to encourage a preservation of this historic, property. We have no way of saving it, so we would love to encourage you to sell it to someone who would preserve it.
Why don't, Gloria, why don't we just work on a letter and then send it to everybody and see whether we can come up with something that has the information about the house that these folks may not even know.
Okay.
Okay, and then if everyone agrees, we can take a vote by email, right?
No, we could discuss it
No.
at the next
No,
meeting.
we're not allowed to take it. We
We
cannot
can't
do a
vote by
vote.
email.
We cannot.
But what also might be worth finding out about this, you said it was going to go on the market in February?
Yes, that's what Amy said. That's Amy 4 exclamation
Oh,
points.
okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, so we've got a little bit of time, and maybe bring a draft to the next meeting so we can, all look it over and approve it.
Something else
Hey.
for the next meeting, Laura.
Gloria,
what-
question, is you're doing a research about that they were slave owners. Is that you document? I mean, that might be new information to them, because
Almost
Uh,
certainly,
yeah,
because,
right, because that's
yeah,
right. That's not in the story of the house. It probably just speaks to those gentlemen who their family, then who they sold it to, and all.
yeah.
I don't know if that's necessarily something that would, I'm not sure how somebody would feel about hearing that. I don't know. I think we have to be careful.
Yeah, they might say, good riddance,
Right.
we're
Exactly.
we're taking it down ourselves.
Exactly.
When,
Well,
when
if I
we
write
do
about the house, that's part of the story. There's no point writing about the house without, telling the story, so.
I just had a quick question. Yeah, one thing that we could do is, if we did draft a letter about the history of the house, is that something that we could ask the realtor if they could potentially have it like printed out and leave it at the open house, for example, like when people are touring the house, there's usually a brochure from the realtor. Maybe we could have like a leaflet, for something like that.
We could, but I highly doubt a realtor who's motivated to get the highest price is going to do anything at
Right.
all.
I get it.
They don't
How do-
care.
We could we
Mostly.
could go there and protest.
We could stand
ourselves, put the
outside.
signs up there, right?
We could
Look
pass
for
them around. We
sympathy-
could
look
go.
for sympathy. Play the
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a couple of you know the current owners, and I think like ultimately it's up to them, right? It's like, but again, as the current owner, I can't imagine they have any motivation to do that either. I mean, as much as I'm sure they love the history of the house, they want top dollar, right? So
Yeah.
Yep,
Mhm.
exactly.
And
Right.
It's
You never
sort of
know,
a-
though. Sometimes people, have you ever heard of situations where people go looking at a home and they're so in love with the home that they write a letter to the owner and they tell some story,
right.
this resonated with me. So, my great aunt's sister, I don't know, something. And for some weird reason, they get the house when there might have been offers that were a little bit, you just don't know if you could hit some little spot in their heart or their conscience that says, maybe I should think about this a little bit. I don't
Let's
know.
draft a letter.
let's do
Lay
the
on the
letter
guilt,
and
the guilt and the sympathy. Yeah.
yep, and we'll bring it up in December. And I'm aware that time is moving away from us. So what I would like to do, because we brought up the bylaws briefly when we were talking with Marianne about Newari, but I do suggest that for the next time that you all read pages 23 to 26 of the bylaws, because it very clearly gives us responsibility for the historic buildings and not a whole lot more than that, which I think we need to postpone the discussion of the bylaws and move on to something that we have been talking about for years, and that is the neighborhood preservation districts, as Gloria likes to call them, or the local historic commission districts, as the state calls them. We have got we've got the plan. Laura and Don put it together. It's huge. It is overwhelming. I will be 80 before it is actually comes before town meeting.
So will I.
But I think we've been talking about this for so long, we should either make some plans to do it or just say, this isn't going to work for us. Your observations?
Needs to be a priority.
Aha. How about making that, you're going to get too much mail from me again, because what I will do is send you what Laura has put together for the local historic districts, what Don had in that wonderful PowerPoint presentation. It tells us exactly how to go about doing
Well, I
it.
thought our strategy was devised, that we were gonna have that event for the, people on the, and new people, and well as older people on the inventory, to start to generate the groundswell of support, because we can't, as much
It's
as.
going to be a while before we could have an in-person event like that.
Well, I don't think that we can introduce we have the we have the, what is it, the schedule that it takes, but that schedule is meaningless if we do not have the kind of support, and we can't, we have a town meeting and people, so we have to have a groundswell of support and that comes from education and familiarity. People have to hear about it. They can't have it be introduced to them on the fly, new. If they don't understand it, they vote against it, okay? So
It's true.
that event might take a lot of preparation. It might be a year or two away, but I think that's the kickoff point to that schedule of things, because I don't want to waste our time going through the format and then just not work.
Oh, you are a Pelosi.
Don,
You always,
Don.
sure you, yes, go ahead, Laura.
No, Don, I think Don has some comments.
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry. Sorry,
Hey,
Don.
listen, we're not event planners. We had no success in getting that thing off the ground. So I would say we need to look for another alternative. And I think, it really is in the hands of the select board, right? That if they buy into it, I mean, that's a limited party, but they buy into it and then they appoint a committee.
Yeah.
We need to have the support of the people who already are familiar with, or already on the inventory. And if maybe you're right. Maybe how do we get event planners? Where do we ask for help? What do we use with our budget?
Yeah, all
to-
$400.
I think we need to come up, and I could be happy to do this with you, Don, if you want to, some sort of plan, right?
Mhm.
Of attack, and we present it to you guys, hopefully next meeting, and we just have to start, like step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And I do think getting the select board support is probably a good first step, because then maybe they can help us to spread the word, and they probably, have a broader reach and more resources than we do. But I think that we have to come up with a timeline and a plan, and just take step after step.
One of the things, right, is with the timeline is, approaching the select board, right? Getting the support, letting them have them appointing someone, right? So, if we approach them and they have like one of the joint public hearings, Okay, like they've sometimes done that with planning board, and so the two of them put together a public hearing, and so it's only to get a presentation and a feedback about what people are thinking about, to continue the discussion. And all they have to do is they have to just indicate it's a public hearing. It's not an event planning, it's on an agenda. And everyone pays attention to what the select board is doing. So bingo.
I think
it
that's like a
happens.
first step. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
But I think Jeff is right that there's a lot of education and personal contact that's going to be involved with historic house owners before there's any prayer of getting this to move toward town meeting. But, but Donna's also right that I think, the reception idea that we had has just never moved forward. And we have to find, either small group discussions or public meetings or some other means of contacting people.
And a presentation at the library, which would also be on Zoom, about things that have been lost using Rick's slideshow. That's one thing to do. The library is always looking for things.
Well, that could be part of the public hearing if we ever get them to do that,
Yeah.
If we appeal to if we appeal to the select board with all of this ammunition and say, we need your help to get this out there, and we find support, then we have a lot of things we can share.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
I spoke to Kevin Keane tonight. There was an introductory thing to him, and so historic preservation came up in memory. So I think he's a friend.
Good. I think that is absolutely wonderful. One very small bit of new business. We have been able to get the names of the people who have purchased the historic houses. And by the way, Don, I do have them. You don't have to send that to me. I just couldn't find it in my piece of paper, and I will make assignments and tell people what they're going to do. And if you want to share, put them around, doesn't matter to me. Anyhow, we've been able to do that because of Chip Davis, and Chip has resigned, but he hasn't been replaced yet, so he's still working part-time. And I think that a thing to do would be to send a letter to him with a copy to Kate, who is his boss, saying that on behalf of the Needham Historical Commission, I wish you the best in your retirement and thank you for your work as the town's administrative assessor in support of the commission. Your cooperation shows how town departments and commissions can work together to fulfill our separate missions and serve the people of our town. The quarterly home sales report you provided helped the commission identify when historic houses on the town's inventory changed ownership. With that information, we can send letters telling the new owners they now have in their care a piece of Needham history. The commission is here to help them enjoy and preserve their historic houses. I speak for all the members of the Needham Historical Commission in saying we look forward to strengthening our relationship with the assessor's office as we continue to work together with your successor. Please know that you played an important role in making that cooperative relationship possible. Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Make a motion that we support that letter.
Good.
and send
Second.
it.
Okay. All those in favor, Gloria,
Aye.
Dylan,
Yes.
Don? Don?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Laura
Yes.
and Jeff, obviously.
Aye.
And I am, so it is unanimous. And now we have one final.
Sorry, for the minutes, who seconded the motion?
I did.
Gloria.
Gloria, okay, sorry, thank you.
That is a problem, I understand. Always ask. Okay, we do have another bit of historical stuff that came up. I got a call from the building department about 764 Central Avenue, which is the Rufus Mills house. And the person who owns it wants to tear down the barn that is on a separate piece of property at 0 Parish Road. And the building department said they don't want to do anything wrong. Do we have control of this? Well, then we come to the really interesting thing, and that is that I had all of the past presidents still here check to see whether or not they could find the Rufus Mills on Macris, and no one can. It's not there. We know that it was in fact submitted. So when Gloria is
Which house is this?
The Rufus Mills House, the one on the corner of Parish Road and Central. The little low one with the roof across the front and the pond.
Okay.
Okay, and behind it is a barn that is not as old as the house. The house is 1837, but behind is a younger barn, and they want permission to tear that down. And I told the building department that we would discuss it tonight. So I owe Lenny a call now. What do I tell him? It is, okay, I checked the registry, Norfolk County Registry of Deeds, and in 2007, 2 pieces of property, both the 764 Central Avenue and the barn behind it they're separate pieces of property. They were transferred from the husband and wife to just the wife.
It was a divorce.
It was a divorce, okay.
It was a divorce. The property was her she is a Thorpe. The family's been in the Thorpe family for years. It came to her from her mother. It was held jointly, and then when they divorced, it went back to her. Best as I can figure, the barn is sometime between like 1910 and 1930. But that's, it's, it's based on looking at some old maps. It's not very, it's a tentative, it's a tentative conclusion, but the barn is not as old as the house.
Is it in disrepair, Rose? Sorry if you said that already.
Mm-hmm.
It's in disrepair.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Which is probably the reason that Ms. Thorpe or Mr. Luca wants to tear it down, is that it is in disrepair. It is interesting that a stockade fence has been put behind the house, shutting off views of the barn. I have no idea what that means, and it's certainly not.
I think we should try and simplify it for them and us.
And say,
I mean, a barn, I mean, it's an outbuilding. What would be historically significant? I mean, even if it was in good shape and, so on, I mean,
right.
unless there was something significant that happened in the barn, that was, I think it's just an outbuilding.
Yeah, I think part of the problem for the building department is when the house went on the inventory, my guess it was all one property. So typically the outbuildings were sort of contained within the, within the jurisdiction of the B form. It has been separated as a property for a while. It's got its own property line. It's got its own address. So I think that's why they weren't sure, like whether it was still under our purview or not.
Yeah, I would say not, because if we didn't go to all the trouble to, if it's a separate lot now, it's separated, and if we didn't go to all the trouble to put that lot on the inventory, I would think that even if we wanted to save it, we don't have that jurisdiction because we didn't vote on putting it on the inventory.
Well, my guess is it was originally part of the inventory by virtue of being part of the property when it first went on.
And I asked the building department to find out when it was made into 2 lots. And Lenny said he would try, but he wasn't sure that he could do that.
Yeah.
I tried the registry and I couldn't find anything that indicated when the property became separate.
We had a similar request about the Townsend Richards House garage, which was from the 20s, and not a detached garage on the property, and we didn't. We told them that was not a problem.
The bylaws say that if it's an unsafe building,
Yeah.
the building department doesn't even have to opine on it. I don't know how person would prove it, but it says the inspector shall inspect it. So maybe that's what they should do, is go look at it and see if it's unsafe, and that kind of cleans it up.
Gloria, you're saying we have a precedent already of not, of not preserving something.
Yeah, I mean, that was a
allowing-
garage that was about to fall down, so probably would have fallen under the same, unsafe
Right.
structure rubric, but we didn't have an issue with, in fact, they requested a hearing and then actually backed off and said, well, it's not that old and it's not attached to the building. And we didn't bother to shout back and say, no, you have to get our permission first, because we essentially agreed it was not that old and was not part of the building. It's not, as I said, my best guess, because the map from my two reference points are a 1909 map and a 1937 Sanford fire insurance map. And in those two maps, over time, the position of the barn is in fact quite different relative to the house. Those maps are not, the Sanfords tend to be fairly accurate. The Atlas tends to be a little less accurate, but we're looking at a barn that was significantly farther into the main property and closer to the house in the older map versus a barn that's set farther back and much closer to Parish Road in the newer map, which says to me that it's not the same barn.
So am I hearing then that what I should, first of all, I need to know whether I can tell Lenny this on the phone or I need to send him a letter. But we're saying that this is not under our purview. So if the owner wants to take it down, it can, she can. Is that, it's kind of what I'm hearing. Yes?
Well, should we ask the building inspector if they've looked at it to see if it's safe or not?
I went by it the other day and the whole roof is covered by tarp. That's a big roof, so it must be in really bad shape. But
If they deem it unsafe, right?
Well,
Then they
can't
have
we
to
make,
let us
if we're
know.
already making a decision, why do we have to, go that route? If we're gonna make a decision that it's not within our purview, it's not preferably
Because we're not
preserved.
sure it's in our we're not sure. I thought we weren't sure if it's in our purview or not. I don't know.
Well, I think that's more of an issue if we want to save it. Because then we would challenge the decision and we'd have to know whether or not we were empowered to challenge it. It's not part of the original house. It's not part of the narrative of the house, which, does involve some outbuildings, but not that one. And it probably dates from around 1915, 1920. So I don't see a reason to stand in the way.
Okay. In that case, should we make a motion to just let the building department know that we have no jurisdiction over the building?
I wouldn't say we have no jurisdiction. I would say we have no objection.
We have no objection. Oh, very
Because
good.
we're actually
Yeah.
not entirely certain,
Point.
as I said, until we know when the property was separated, we're not entirely certain what our jurisdiction is. Plus we, it's not, and our jurisdiction is never anything we want to cede if we can help it. Because we don't want to set any precedents for the times when we don't want us to see jurisdiction. But if it's not something that we think needs to be saved, we can simply tell them that.
Mhm.
That we've reviewed. Okay, moved that the Needham Historical Commission has reviewed. We haven't really, let's see.
Is a barn structure.
Has discussed, I think is probably better.
Yeah.
The potential demolition of the barn at 0 Parish Road and finds no reason to object or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
I second that.
Okay. Gloria made the motion, Jeff sectioned it.
Or say
Okay.
finds that its historic status is not significant, and they're,
Okay. Okay, so now we are voting on Dylan Help here. Move that the Needham Historical Commission has discussed. Can you carry on from there?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. So Needham Historical Commission has discussed the proposed demolition of the barn structure adjacent to the historical home at, what is it, 764 Central Ave?
Mhm.
764 Central Ave. Commission agrees that barn has little historical significance and does not oppose to the demolition.
And has no objection to the
there's no
demolition.
objection to its demolition, yeah.
Has no objection to demolition?
Mhm.
Okay, that's a motion by Gloria.
Yeah, seconded Jeff.
Motion. Second, Jeff. Okay, I think we're ready for a vote.
Okay, Dylan, give us the vote.
Aye.
Okay, Don,
Aye.
Laura,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Gloria.
Aye.
Aye, so it is unanimous. Okay. And
You probably can call or email Lenny, but you should send them a letter anyway as a follow-up.
okay, okay. I will call Lenny tomorrow because I told him we were meeting tonight.
Yeah, and then just tell them letters on the way.
Yes. Okay, excellent. I think what you don't know is that I have a rule that meetings really ought to last an hour. And we've gone much longer. So I think that tonight, when we've got another loaded December agenda, but that's okay. We did a lot of good work tonight. So thank you very much. Okay, and I will.
Thanks,
Rose.
Chris.
Yes,
Rose, can I summarize, not now, in in an email to you what I think are the next agenda items in the next few days or so? In an
absolutely.
email?
Absolutely. And may I also ask how many of you would like to meet on Zoom in December? Okay, that's the majority. So we'll meet on Zoom in December. Okay, Kristen? All right, thank
Do
you.
we have a
I'll send
date?
you the Zoom link tomorrow.
Do we have a
What's
date?
that?
I'm sorry. What is the next meeting date?
The 13th?
Her teeth.
Well, okay, here's, I just tried to close the meeting, but we do have another issue, and that is other commissions and boards have a place for agendas and for minutes. We don't have a place for agendas. I don't want to go back to year one and start doing that, but should we have agendas on some place that people can go and find out exactly when the dates are?
Well, Rose, I suggested in an email to you that the committee internally use some kind of, Dropbox or Google Drive or something that we can all have access to. The question was raised whether whether the town allowed that, or whether like the public should be provided access to that folder, which is easy enough. I mean, you could just make it a public drive, I guess, but.
But you would be.
Isn't there a spot
Yeah.
though on the website? There's a spot where it says agendas and meeting minutes on the town website.
But on the town website, you have under Historical Commission, you have only minutes. You don't have any agendas.
You can add agendas there if you like.
What do you think? It would just make life a lot
Yeah.
easier. Everybody?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay. Kristen, can you do that then? Just add an agenda, and then starting in December, the agenda will be clearly visible to everyone. That's good. That's an excellent thing. Okay, shall we finish our tea, which is now cold, and go and enjoy the rest of the evening? Could I have a motion?
moved.
Second,
Move to adjourn.
Okay, and the second came from Don. All right, all those, oh, Gloria. Oh, don't I have to do this by voice vote?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I thought so. Gloria, yes.
yes. Aye.
Oh, yes. Dylan,
Hi.
okay. Don,
yes.
Laura,
yes.
Jeff?
Yep.
Right.
Okay, we are out of here. Right. Hey, happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
to
Thanksgiving,
all.
everybody. Thanks,
Thank you.
Kristen.
Same to
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Kristen.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.